Show me the money. NFL picks for week number 15 are here, and always a fun time when I'm joined by this guy. My favorite guest to have on for the picks every year. Great Justin Diaz back with us. Justin, how are you?
I'm well, Mike. Thank you. Honored to be on again. I love being on. We got to talk about how much the Giants are terrible. It's a consistent theme. I think we're on. How long have you been doing this podcast for?
I think this is the sixth NFL season. I think only one of them has actually been good.
Yeah, it feels like it's been longer than
Yeah.
six.
Yep.
It's just the consistent theme every single time. I got
Yep.
to come on and rant about the Giants. It's honestly football therapy for me, so I appreciate it.
Hey, I'm here to help. I'm here to make you feel a little better here. Unlike what your Giants did Sunday here, they have this game against the Saints where looks winnable. Derek Carr breaks his hand. You think you got a shot. Game time field goal attempt is blocked. So always big takeaways from Sunday.
I mean, the takeaways are they just find ways to lose. It's actually a good thing. I'm actively rooting for them to lose so they can get the number one pick. It's not surprising. The offense has been unbelievably inept and not able to move the ball or score. It's they're so incompetent offensively. Their defense has actually been solid. They've kept them in a lot of games, but they can't score. No matter who, it doesn't matter if it's Daniel Jones or Drew Lock or Tommy Cutlets. They're not scoring points. I don't see any reason to keep Brian Dable. And I think the argument people say is he hasn't had his quarterback, and that's fair. Like you can't necessarily definitively say Brian Dable is not a good coach, but at the same time, he really hasn't done anything to support the argument that he is a good coach. So the first year was a fluke. They were pretty good, and they've regressed tremendously at all facets of the game. And that includes Daniel Jones, when Dable's calling card is an offensive guy who's supposedly good at coaching quarterbacks. So, I mean, the first guy they had, Jones, they gave him the big contract after the first year, and he got significantly worse every year since. So I don't see a reason to bring back Dable. I would just start clean.
Yeah, and obviously now you also got the embarrassing factor from Mara too. Now he has a banner plane fly over the game on Sunday saying, "Mr. Mara, please fix this dumpster fire here." I know he's been tempted, to say like I want continuity, I give these guys a shot, more like been churning through codes at the same time. But like you look at the situation here, I mean, this is a team now. We got fans flying banner planes over the stadium. Fans aren't showing up. They're 0-7 at home this year. They haven't won a division game this year. Like at what point do you think it just gets to be too much for Mara? Say, okay, I kind of got to start over again.
If they go 2-15, I can't imagine they keep Dable. You know what? I don't know. They're used to it now. I mean, this has been the norm for a long time. They kept Gettleman, my favorite best friend, for 4 years. To those listeners of Mike's podcast, you know how I felt about him. Mara, he's kind of been all over the place in terms of keeping guys. Coughlin won two Super Bowls, so obviously he was going to keep him for a long time. Gettleman he kept for 4 years, which was way too long. And then Ben McAdoo, first year went 11-5. Second year they fired mid-season because he benched Eli. So that one he had a quick hook. Dable, it's kind of unpredictable. My gut is telling me actually, if I had to guess, I don't feel strongly in this. I do actually think they're going to keep him just because they could justify it with we have to give him a chance to have his guy at quarterback. But then you're basically forcing Dable and Shane to draft a quarterback in a class that's pretty weak. But in terms of embarrassment, this has been the Giants' way since 2012. They've had two playoff seasons, and they were both clearly outliers and flukes. So, I mean, Mara can be embarrassed all he wants, but this is who they are. This isn't the anomaly anymore.
Yeah, it's not here, and obviously, I'm sure it adds salt to the wound when you look down I-95. You got Saquon Barkley beating the MVP race for Philly.
Oh man, the Saquon. I've ranted about Saquon on here numerous times, and I'm happy for him. I love Saquon. He's a fantastic player. He never should have been a Giant. They shouldn't have drafted him second overall in a class that wound up having Josh Allen, Sam Darnold, Lamar Jackson at the end of that first round as well. That's a whole different topic of discussion. The Saquon thing, if they kept him, he would not be doing what he's doing now. Maybe they'd have a win more, and I'm not even confident about that. I actually think they'd probably have the same record. And you don't have to look far back to see that. Last year, they were terrible, Saquon couldn't even hit 4 yards a carry, and that's to no fault of his own. A running back cannot carry a bad offensive line, a bad quarterback, no receivers. They had it was the right move to let him go, but it looks bad when he goes to another team and immediately might legitimately be the MVP. I think Josh Allen will win, but Barkley's going to finish top three and he's going to win Offensive Player of the Year. So optically, it looks terrible. But I make this analogy a lot, and maybe it might be a little offensive, but I'm just going to say it. If you gave a homeless man $50,000 and said, "Here, get your life together," it would be like a bad team signing an expensive running back that has all these other holes. It would be like that homeless man then going buying a $50,000 Rolex, saying, "Well, it's flashy. I want it." Yeah, it's a nice thing to have, but it's not going to turn your life around. And then if you took that Rolex and gave it to an executive, a top level executive, and then that guy's thriving, then people say that homeless man should have bought the Rolex. Look, that executive's thriving and he got a lot of compliments on his Rolex. His life was already in order.
Yeah.
That's just an enhancer. Saquon Barkley, the Eagles, they were a Super Bowl. They made the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Last year, they made the playoffs. Saquon's a Rolex that they got, and it's enhancing their lives because they have an elite offensive line. That's what a top running back can do. It can make a good team better. It cannot make a very bad team. It literally basically makes no difference for a very bad team. And we saw that with Saquon's whole career with the Giants. They couldn't do anything because they have a horrible offensive line. So when people are taking their victory lap about, oh, look, Saquon went to the Eagles, that was clearly a mistake. No, it further proves how incompetent the Giants are because they wasted his talent and they would have continued to waste his talent even if he stayed on the Giants. So Saquon Barkley is a Rolex, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Moral of the story.
Yeah, that's the moral of the story. Definitely very nice Rolex for the Eagles here. And the Giants now Sunday get another home game where nobody's going to go to against the Ravens. Biggest underdogs of the season. They are 16.5 point underdogs as of recording time here. Like any shot they cover this number, or is this just like a 3 touchdown loss?
I mean, there's always a chance to cover a number that big because it's just the nature of the sport. You don't know what the final score will be because I'm not even saying the card of it could be a close game. No, I think there's virtually no chance of it actually being a competitive game, but a non-competitive game could be a 14-point game. The Ravens could go up 21 points and the Giants score a touchdown in garbage time. So that's why I when I take games, I never would take a 16 and a half point spread. I'm not taking the underdog because they're terrible and they're that big of an underdog for a reason. But I also don't feel comfortable laying 16 and a half because that's a lot to ask. The Ravens could cruise and dominate the entire game and win by 15 or 14. So it won't be a competitive game, but I don't feel comfortable taking the spread. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I would not touch this game because the number is just too big, and it feels like all I have to do is just like you said, the backdoor cover here. All I have to do about this game, the money line on DraftKings, the Ravens are minus 1350 the money line, by far the biggest favorite of the week.
Yeah, I mean, you see last weekend someone put 3.1 million on the Eagles to
Yeah,
beat the Panthers and to win 400K and easily could have lost that bet.
yeah,
So I wonder if anyone's going to be hammering the Ravens. The Ravens, I love their team, but their defense is pretty bad. So I mean, that kind of if there's a matchup that's favorable for them, I guess it would be a team like the Giants who cannot move the ball. So the Ravens are going to score a lot, and I guess the defense just has to step on the field and not have 12 men on the field, and they should be fine.
yeah. And don't forget, Tommy Cutlass is back at center, under center this week because Drew Lock's hurt.
Yeah, what an exciting time. I can't stand it. It's not even him, it's the fan reaction to him saying, "Let's see what we have." It's like, no, he's barely an NFL caliber player. It's not, it's not nice to him, but I'm not trying to knock him. He's just not a legitimately he's not a legitimate option to be an NFL quarterback. If he's your guy, you're having a terrible season. Maybe you evaluate him to see if he can be a competent backup. I don't think he can, but I just that whole run that Cutlets media last year was just so annoying and obnoxious.
Yeah. Let me just give you a Jet comparison. You remember back when we were in high school, like when the Jets had all the quarterback injuries in '05 and Brooks Bollinger came in and played like decent football for like 5 weeks?
Of course, everyone loves the backup. It's
Yeah.
like you could have an elite quarterback. If they struggle a little bit, they're yelling for the backup to be in. And I'm sorry, there's a reason these guys are backups. Once in a blue moon, you get a Tom Brady, like once literally in ever. But there's not the backups are not coming in and saving the day.
Yeah, he's Brooks Bollinger, in my opinion. Like he's the guy who got the fans excited for a little bit. That the more you play, like, oh, he sucks.
Yeah, exactly. Wasn't there one on the Jets more recent too? Who is the Mike White?
Yeah, well, Mike White, I think, was like he looked like he was on a decent track until he got like got destroyed by the Bills, and then he was never the same
Yeah.
after that.
Yeah, he actually played well because he was just willing to throw the ball down the field. And
Yes.
Zach Wilson was so bad, so that anyone, I guess, would have looked good by comparison.
Yep. So that's what's going on with the situation here. We'll see what happens if the Giants can actually cover this number. And they got one home game left against the Colts after that one here. Do you think the 0-9 home season is a possibility for the Giants?
I think it's likely. Not only do I think it's a possibility, I think it's going to happen. I mean, Ravens is that's a loss. Then it's the Colts. Colts aren't great, but they're a competent football team. I don't think the Giants will beat them, especially I mean, Drew Lock is horrible as well. So no matter who's playing quarterback, yeah, I think the Giants are losing out. I think that's pretty safe to say. I hope they do. Um, yeah, I have no confidence in them winning a football game for the rest of the year.
All right, let's get to the pick for the reason why you're here. My buddy Christopher Russo came on here last week. He picked all the primetime games, went 3-0 in the week. He had the Packers covering the 3.5. They end up covering in the loss. The Chargers getting the 4, betting against the Chiefs covering. That seems to be a good strategy here. You had the Bengals laying 5.5 on Monday night. That looks tight late until Dallas decided to foobar the block punt. So you got
Yeah.
the win there. So 3-0 for Chris last week.
Does he go by Mad Dog? That's my one question when I hear the name Chris Russo.
No, he does not.
He should. That's a lot. I mean, I guess that would be just copying him, but yeah, good picks by Chris.
Yeah, I went 1-2 last week. I bid my strategy betting against the local teams that worked for a few weeks. It didn't last week because the Dolphins, I locked in at 6.5, ended up winning by 6. That didn't cover me there. The Saints we just talked about here. I was on the Panthers getting the points last week, so that was my one win. So that was a good one.
Yeah, that was a great pick. I wouldn't have picked that myself. They surprised. They're playing actually pretty well. It's good to see Bryce Young turn things around. He was, everyone kind of wrote him off already. I still don't think he's the answer. I mean, I think he's shown he could at least be decent, but he's just when you look at him, just immediately you're like, that guy is tiny.
Yeah.
He cannot be an NFL quarterback. He looks like a child. This is disparaging, but he literally looks like a kid out there compared to the linemen and the rest of the league.
Yeah, he looks like he kind of like compared to some of these big NFL linemen, like edge rushers. It's like almost like you grab the guy off like at the parking lot and say, hey, please go play quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
he happens to be accurate and a little mobile, but yeah, he's way too small.
Yeah, so on the year, the Challengers team is 22-20. I'm 24-17-1. The push came all the way back in week 1 with the Colts. So that's why I've been hanging out to that half game the entire season. So
Yeah, I mean, you're having a great year. This has got to be one of your top years, I feel like. Am I
yeah.
right?
Yeah, I've been cruising the whole way. Like I started picking against the locals about halfway through the season. That's really helped.
Nice. Yeah, that's good job. And let's see how we do this week.
Yeah, just a spoiler warning here. I did not pick either local game this week. I was not comfortable with either number, so I did not touch it. But Justin, as the guest, you can go first here. So where are you going with pick number 1?
All right. Pick number one, I'm going to take I'm going to take the 49ers minus 2.5 at home against the Rams. Anyone that knows me well and knows my football takes knows I've been a huge 49ers advocate for the last few years, taking them to win the Super Bowl literally the last 3 years. The wheels have totally fallen off this year. They've been ravaged by injuries. I do think they're going to have a streak here to end the year. They put it together last weekend and had a great game. I know the Rams are actually playing well, but I just think the Niners are going to make a push for one last stand for the season. I think they're going to actually win. Well, but clearly, I think they're going to win the game outright. They're 2.5 point favorites. So I think that's my first pick. I'm pretty confident in that one.
Yeah,
Uh,
I don't like picking the Thursday game. That's why I'm not going near that one.
that's fair. Thursday night's always a crapshoot with the little rest, and then we got Wednesday night football coming
Yeah,
up next weekend
yeah,
too.
yeah. That's a whole other shenanigan mess here. But we're going pick 2.
Pick two, I'm taking the Browns plus 4.5 at home against the Chiefs. The Chiefs have been playing with fire every single week. They've been winning games in the most unbelievably lucky fashion imaginable. I just think Jameis Winston, this is me going with my gut. I think Winston's going to be the good Jameis for most of this game. We're going to get the most viral quote from him imaginable after the game and their post. I'm taking the Browns to win this game outright. I just have a feeling the Chiefs are finally going to get burned because no matter what everyone says, oh, they know how to win, they're champions. It's true. There's some element of truth. They're a champion and they know how to win. But the fact is, they're just not playing that well, and they've been getting very lucky. And I think it finally catches up with them this week.
Yeah, I think that's a good call here with that, including the winning outright part. I mean, I was reading an article today on The Athletic from Mike Sando examining the Chiefs' success. And basically, if you look at, there's like a 1 in 406 chance they'll win these many games in a row like they have, at least those margins. And then their record should be, according to, like, if you average out like an average luck team, 8-5. And that tells you
Yeah,
playing over their heads.
it's unbelievable. And of course, it sparks all the conspiracy theories because those are already happening with Travis Kelsey and that singer that people like. I forget her name. I don't want, and it's just ridiculous. But it's hard to refute it when every single game they win by the most outrageous circumstances.
Yep. That's pick two. We're going to pick three.
Pick three, I am taking the Eagles -5.5 against the Steelers. I think the Eagles I hate them, and it pains me to say this. I think they're a great team that's just absolutely rolling right now. I think the passing game has been, everyone knows that's been a big story this week. They've been struggling. I think they're going to come out all cylinders firing just to prove that that's something they can put behind them. I cannot back off my take. My take on the Steelers is they've been over accomplishing. They're not as good as their record. I can't back off of it. I'm just being stubborn because they've actually played very well. So I think the Eagles are a far better team. I think their defense is going to give Russ a lot of problems. He's going to make some dumb interceptions because he's going to try and do too much. So I'm taking the Eagles -5.5 there.
Yeah, another fun fact that will back up your pick here. Do you know that the Eagles have not lost at home to the Steelers since 1965?
I did not know that. That's a wild stat. I mean, they probably play them at home every 4 years, but that's still, if not more. But that is a wild stat. That's a long time to have a winning streak keeping going.
All right, so your picks are on the board here. I'm up now here. Pick number one. I'm going to go to the Titans getting 5 points on Sunday at home against the Bengals here. And we know the Bengals are still mathematically alive. They had that wild win on Monday Night Football against the Cowboys. They're going on the road on a short week as a bad team. And I do not think they're going to show up for this spot. This has been a bad Bengal team this year. They find ways to lose games. I'm getting 5 with Tennessee, who's been sparky. Their coach used to coach for Cincinnati, so he used to have some insights in the situation here. I think they're at least covering a number, if not winning outright. I feel like this could be a spot where Cincinnati shows up here, just doesn't dig an effort and gets eliminated in Tennessee. So I'm going to take the Titans getting the points.
Yeah, I mean, I get the logic. The Bengals offense is just so good. I mean, they're like everyone makes the joke. What is their record now? 5-8. They're like the best 5-8 team of all time. Not a lot of stiff competition there. I just don't like putting any faith in Will Levis. He's so erratic. He's liable to make a couple of mind-bogglingly bad decisions and cost them some big time points. I don't know. I really, I don't. That's a stay away from game because the Bengals are so unpredictable and their defense is so bad. But I don't like the idea of taking the other team when it's the Titans. That's just my take, though.
All right, let's pick one. Pick two. For the first time in almost 2 years, Carolina is favored against the Cowboys. I'm going to back Carolina here, laying the 3 points. I just think this Dallas team is not very good. I think they tried to give their fans some false hope with the last couple of weeks. Got exposed against Cincinnati here, and coming off of that loss, short week, going on the road, I don't see it. I don't think they're coming out with much energy here. They know they're pretty much eliminated from the playoffs. They might be eliminated from the playoffs by the time the day ends, and I think Carolina is playing hard. Bryce Young is showing something here. The Panthers have played very well. They've played in good teams to the wire the last 3, 4, 5 weeks. So I think with a mediocre team coming in the building, I think they're going to come out and get a win. So give me the Panthers laying the 3 points. Their first time favorite in 33 games. Pick two.
Totally agree. Cowboys are done this year. McCarthy's on his last legs. They're firing him. Yeah, the Panthers offense has looked legit. Like we've said earlier, Young has turned it around. I think the coaching staff, what is Dave Canales is in his first year, if I'm not mistaken. So it seems like the players are starting to understand the system better and that they're playing a lot better. So I agree with that pick fully.
All right, pick three. Going to one of the two Monday night games on the board. I'm going to take the Vikings laying the 6.5 against the Bears here. I know they went to overtime the first time, but people forget Vikings basically blew them out for three quarters, took their foot off the gas, let the Bears come back in here. Since then, Eberflus is gone. They have an interim coach in here. Vikings are home trying to keep pace the Lions, the NFC North. They might have a chance to tie for the North lead on Sunday, on Monday, if the Lions lose to the Bills. I think this spot here where Brian Flores cooks up some exotic blitzes. Caleb Williams has no idea what's coming to him. Vikings just run away and hide in this game early. It's at home, too, which helps. I think it's at least a 2-touchdown win for the Vikings. I'm laying less than a touchdown. So I'll lay the points at the Vikings, my last pick.
Yeah, I'm shocked to hear the line is that low. I agree. I think this will be a blowout. This shouldn't be a competitive game with how well the Vikings have been playing again. Your boy Darnold, that's got to be painful to see. He's been lighting it up again. Their defense is great. Caleb struggle. I like Caleb Williams a lot, but I think he's going to struggle immensely on the road. I agree. Brian Flores is going to really confuse him, and I think that's going to be. I could see that being like a 28-3 game or something just ugly like that.
Yeah, I think it's an ugly one here, too. So to reset the picks of the week, Justin's taking the 49ers on Thursday night, laying 2.5 against the Rams at home. The Browns getting 4, and Justin says win outright if you're feeling frisky against the Chiefs at home. And then the Eagles laying 5.5 against the Steelers in one of the games of the week. My picks: the Vikings laying 6.5 on Monday night against the Chicago Bears. The Titans getting 5 at home against the Bengals. I'm also putting an upset alert out on that game. The Panthers laying 3 at home against the Dallas Cowboys. Those are your picks for week 15 here on the podcast. And coming up next week, my buddy Kevin Lillis coming on here, and we're gonna have some fun with the Jet dysfunction next week. We're gonna kind of go Giants Jets down the stretch here.
It's like a battle over who's the most incompetent franchise in New Jersey. I don't know who I'd pick. It's actually tough to that there was a time where that would have been in like you wouldn't have even imagined that could have been the case because the Giants were so consistently good. But they've brought themselves down to the level of the Jets. So I want to ask who's your ideal coach for the Jets next year if you had to pick one?
Rabel.
Vrabel. Yeah, I mean he's going to bring discipline
Yeah.
and respect immediately. I always lean towards wanting the offensive guys, the offensive minded coaches, but so many of them just don't work out either. It's such a crapshoot. So if you can get a proven guy who has a track record, that's always a good pick to go with.
I'm getting tired of the first time defensive coordinator who has no idea how to run an offense being the head coach. At least Mike Vrabel knows how to run a program. So
Yeah, no, yeah, the Jets. Who do they have? Todd Bowles, although he's turned it around in Tampa, so that there's something there.
Todd Bowles, Sala, Rex, Mangini, Herm were all what he hires.
Yeah, I mean Rex Ryan was I couldn't stand him, but he did have a very successful run, and that he was the coach the last time they made the playoffs, right?
He still didn't know how to run an offense.
No, but yeah, that's fair. Those defenses were great though, and they were fun, and they wanted to eat a damn snack.
Yeah, well, I think people don't want to admit this about Rex. Also, it's like he kind of coasted on the roster. Mangini built the first 2 years. Then, like once some of those guys started aging out or like getting cut, like when they had to put the team together, they were not as good.
No, that's fair, and the offense really was bad. But I mean, a lot of that was Sanchez. But who knows? Maybe if you had a better offensive mind, maybe Sanchez would have developed into a better quarterback. But that's a whole different topic of discussion.
Yeah, it is a whole different topic of discussion here. And speaking of a different discussion topic, I have you here, and like, in light of the Juan Sozers, I want to get your thoughts on like how this played out and what you think the Yankees do next.
Great. I was actually going to congratulate that on you. So first, congratulations. That's a very exciting day for Mets fans. I mean, I thought it played out pretty predictably. I always thought it would come down to the Yankees and Mets. Uh, I just figured all else equal, if the money is similar, I can't imagine him going to the Red Sox and certainly not the Blue Jays. Um, the only question was, would the Yankees be willing to match the Mets offer? And they weren't. And he took, and it wasn't a no, it was the Yankees made a great offer, but the Mets offer was even better by a significant amount too, when you can factor in the signing bonus and total value of the contract. So I mean, I would do the same thing. And one thing I can't stand when people try and count other people's money and say, "Oh, he's just playing for the money. He should have stayed with the Yankees." It's like, of course he's playing for the money. What else would he be? It's his career. It's not a hobby of his. And I'm going to go. This is me going on a soapbox here. Athletes have such a small defined window of earning. His earning will go literally go from 50 million a year, then he's done playing, and then it goes to zero a year for the rest of his life. And that's the rest of his life's 50 years. And then he also is worrying about his future generations. So that's just a rant of mine. I can't stand when people say athletes should like take less money. And it's also fans say he should take less money to play where I want him to play. So what about where he wants to play? What if he wants to play for the Mets and start something new? But whatever his motivations are, more power to him for making the decision best for him and his family. That aside, Yankees, I like the move that they made getting Max Fried. I would love to see them bring in someone like Alex Bregman. There's rumors about Kyle Tucker. I mean, he's an incredible hitter. I think that would be a steep price. And I also just can't envision the Astros trading their top player to the Yankees. But the Yankees desperately need another hitter. Now they're back to square one where it's just Aaron Judge and a bunch of decent guys. So it's going to be interesting to see how they pivot, but they have to do some things. Their lineup as it is not. I don't think it's strong enough. What do you think they should do next? And also, I want to hear your thoughts on the Soto thing.
Well, Soto, I mean, I think you're dead on with the money thing, which I will never fault a guy for taking the most money here, especially like you're not saying he gets zero, but like even if he becomes like say like a commentator, like he's maxing out in like the six figures, not like the nine figures that he's getting with the baseball situation. So that's one thing as
Exactly.
yeah. And the Mets, it's like, you know what, like I don't play for the Yankees here either because I feel like Steve Cohen was just like in art collection mode where like he would have kept going and going and going until he just drove hell out of the process.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, that's a whole lot. The Yankees are in a weird spot where they spend a ton of money, but it still feels like they're being cheap because there's so many different things going on with this and so many different angles. But to me, it's so opaque how much baseball teams and sport teams generate in general in terms of revenue, but it's a lot more than they lead on. Like, so when people say, oh, they can't spend that much, it's like, of course they can. They're billionaires who own a $10 billion asset. Literally, if the Yankees were to sell, they bare minimum, they're selling for $5-6 billion. So good for Steve Cohen for just that's the other thing. If you're buying a sports franchise, you're not, it's you have a you you have an obligation to the fans that are supporting you to actually try and win and to spend money in a way that's making your team competitive. It shouldn't be treated as like just strictly a means to get wealthier. So good for Steve Cohen for buying the team and actually trying to everything he can do to win. And I love having guys like him in the sport because then it's going to force other owners to actually follow suit and do the same. Because for a long time, baseball, there was actually a collusion case that they lost. Well, I don't know when was that, like early 90s?
I think like
Or
strike, I think.
yeah, and then, or I don't know if they lost, but there's always been huge allegations of collusion. And when you look at the facts, it's hard to deny that it seems very likely and plausible. So when Steve Cohen comes in, it's going to force the other owners to actually start spending more money. But that's a whole other topic of discussion.
Yeah, because
I keep saying that, but I could talk about this stuff for hours.
yeah, because I definitely think the discussion is worth having at some point about like the owners not spending money. I mean, we saw in the trade at the winter meeting, saw basically the Guardians just give Andres Gimenez away. Basically, I mean, he's not a great player, but still very valuable, and they just basically turn him in for like four lottery tickets with
Yeah,
they deal with the
it's
Pirates. And then we saw, and then with the Pirates themselves, like you're sitting here talking about, oh, how great Paul Skeens is, and you're sitting there feeling bad for the Pirates. You know that like in 3 years they're gonna be hearing, oh, we have to trade Paul Skeens. We don't want to pay him.
100%. I mean, the Athletics, they just gave the biggest contract in the history of their franchise. It was 3 years, 67 million. Like, I mean, and Soto's signing bonus is bigger than that. So there's obviously other issues like teams like that I can understand are going to struggle to spend money. That's an MLB issue though. They have to figure out how to address that. That's way above my knowledge and understanding of it. But yeah, the way baseball has been is I think Steve Cohen's going to shake it up. I loved what he did, and I'm very excited for Mets fans, and I'm going to be watching them a lot this year.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun watching the Mets this year here. And as far as the Yankee situation goes, like I said this, I had our buddy Phil Fred on earlier this week for the Yankee offseason think tank. It's like I'd be very wary about like committing big years to this free agent class is not an ideal fit for what goes on here. It's like my solution is sort of like trade for Bellinger, like have him either be your center fielder or your first baseman, and then you're sitting here next year. I mean, you keep your powder dry. I liked his idea of getting free and then trading starting pitching for something you need. Have your
Yeah.
money ready for Vlad Jr. or Tucker next year. Make sure you get one of them at least.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, it's the tough thing about trade waiting for somebody is what's to stop Cohen or the Dodgers from signing both of those guys? I mean, I really could see them doing that, and I would laugh if they do that because that's what you get for kind of just sitting and waiting and saying, well, next guy or this guy's not perfect. So if you have an opportunity to make your team better, obviously within reason, like Alex Bregman is a great player. He's a little bit of a gamble because he had a down year. So you have to ask yourself, is this his new standard or can he bounce back? But I mean, I understand the hesitancy of wanting to give him 8 years or whatever the heck he's asking for. But you can't always just say, well, this guy's not a perfect candidate for a long-term contract. He's a good candidate and he's going to make our team much better now. Sometimes you have to make the plunge, especially if you're a World Series contender. So yeah, it's a tricky balance, and that's why Brian Cashman and GMs are paid so much money.
Yeah, especially when the Yankees are, as usually, when they know their two best players not getting to be younger, and you can't keep waiting for their prime to like try and win. And like, I understand the push for Soto, but I think at the hard time, like Christian Walker, I think you can keep him short term. I think it's not a bad pivot. I think
Yeah.
he helps. I think Bellinger would be a good fit, but I just think like if you can find a way to get Vlad or Tucker on your teams, I think that's probably the move.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, those guys are elite hitters that are going to be good for many years to come. But I mean, the rest of all the big spenders are going to be going after them. So, I mean, Tucker's contract's going to be crazy too. So, is Vlad a free agent after next season?
Yeah, they both are.
Yeah. I mean, I think Tucker's going to be get the bigger contract just because he's much more athletic and in theory you would think would age better. But well, he's also had injury issues. So, that'll be an interesting class. We're a year away, but that'll be exciting when the time does come.
Yeah, I think over 300 for Tucker's gonna be like, yes, based on what Soto
Yeah,
got. I think
easily.
Vlad's gonna be closer to.
Yep, totally agree.
All right, Justin. Thanks for all the time. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Always fun to be on the show, and thanks for having me on.